Welcome to Unity of Wilmington. Come on in and join us for a time of spiritual community where we can affirm above and beyond all appearances in our world today that there's only one presence and one power active in the universe and in our lives, a presence and power we call God. Let's begin with a time of prayer, of connecting to our inner wisdom, to connecting to that beautiful, loving spirit within that fills us with assurance, that comforts us in the unknown, in oneness with Spirit, with God, with all that is. We can begin again rebuilding our faith with confidence and courage, rebuilding a faith that supports our greater well-being in the world, rebuilding a faith that reminds us of peace. So it is, and so we let it be. Amen.
I close my eyes, I open my heart, I take a deep breath, let the healing start. I lift my hands, I plant my feet, I let love in, I feel the beat that's calling us to rise, rise, Spirit, rise up, rise in me. I ready my soul, I clear my mind, I'm here and now. In present time, I feel the power of 1,000 suns lighting up the dark. Oh, we rise as one. Oh, rise, rise, Spirit, rise up, rise and be. Oh, rise, rise, Spirit, rise up, rise and be, rise and be. I sing to you, you sing to me. Change up this noise, make sweet harmony. Come on and rise, rise, Spirit, rise up, rise and be. Oh, rise, rise, Spirit, rise up, rise and be, rise and be. Heart to heart, hand in hand, no turning back, onward to promised land. Do you feel the power of 1,000 suns suns, lighting up the dark. Oh, we rise as one. Love's calling, calling out your name. Love's calling. It's why we came. Love's calling, calling out your name. Love's calling. It's why we came. Come on and rise, rise, Spirit, rise up, rise and be, oh, rise, rise, Spirit, rise up, rise and be, rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. Come on and rise up, lift your hands up. Come on and rise up, raise your voice and rise.
LaRaisha Dionne, Jon Hill on the drums, and Paul Miller. Rise up, let your voice come forth. In unity, we talk about the power of the spoken word regularly. It's that power of speaking, of the frequency of our words, and allowing our words to be words that bring us up in frequency, that allow us to embrace our wholeness, coming forth and embracing our wholeness. We are invited to rise up, to step into, to embrace fully who and what we are. Now, if you're like me at all, you have some experiences of some thoughts that come wafting through or maybe crashing through. And those thoughts are pretty familiar to most people. I want to share with you what they are. Feeling fundamentally flawed. Oh, there must be something wrong with me. I'm not good enough, which is not being good enough. That is a feeling. Believing we're a burden somehow to other people. And the fear of if we really, truly live fully in our magnificence, we would outshine somebody, and that somebody would feel hurt or would stop loving us. Each of these, the fundamentally flawed, the not good enough, that I am a burden, and feeling like if I were living in my true magnificence, then I would be too much, are actually words of fear. They're thoughts that have fear attached, of somehow not being whole, of not being enough, of not being the full completeness that we are. Now, the Bible teaches us this: be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. It comes from Matthew. Be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. Now, most of us think that that perfection is doing everything right and making no mistakes. Can you imagine having that thought? Can you imagine, oh, I've got to do this right. I don't want to do it wrong. I want to show that I am good enough. I want to show that I'm not a burden, that I can do my part. Be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. Well, let's look at this a moment. The word perfect actually comes from the Greek word telos. Telos. And what it means is not perfect. What it means is be whole. Be whole as your Father is whole. And this is what it looks like. Be whole as your Father is whole. And we know that we are created in the image of and as the likeness of God. And we're not called to be perfect. We are called to live in our wholeness. And living in our wholeness is to step forth and live as full out as we possibly can. To focus on the divine that is already within us. And to let that divinity be our guidance. To let it lead us, to guide us. To step forth in that wholeness and from that wholeness. And let's look at the idea of Father. The word was Papa, as Jesus put it forth, calling forth a relationship, identifying it was a metaphor for a relationship, one of connection. Because in the day and the time of Jesus, you had to have an intercessor in order to speak to God. You went through the high priest in the temple. So when Jesus came forth and he started saying, the Father and I are one, Papa and I are one, he's denoting a relationship of oneness. We have that same relationship, that relationship of oneness. We know that God is the wholeness, the perfection, the allness. And we are too. That is the truth, the capital T truth of who we are. And today I'm inviting you on the journey into stepping into that truth as fully as you can in this moment, knowing it's going to be a journey of unfolding, knowing that each day you'll be making a new choice. Can I live from my wholeness? Am I willing to live from my wholeness? I want to live from my wholeness. And then to that place where we commit to living from our wholeness as often as possible. I want you to consider for a moment what it is that stops you. How might you answer this question? I cannot live from my wholeness because. Now, most of us were raised in ways that told us we needed to be different than we were. And it's not a negative reflection on our parents. It's just how we were raised. Do it this way, do it that way. You know, it can go back to something as simple as the toilet paper. Do you put it over or do you put it under? And people have big arguments in relationships about things like this because they believe things should be a certain way. But what if you came to the party that was your family? It's already going. There's certain dynamics, but what if you didn't fit necessarily perfectly into those dynamics? What if you had different ideas than your family, but you were told your ideas were wrong? What if your love language and your way of loving was different than your mom or your dad's? And you loved in the way that felt so good to you, but the other didn't receive it as love. That happens sometimes. And usually then what gets reflected back on us is, I'm not good enough. I'm fundamentally flawed. Oh, I must be a burden to someone. So how do we begin to step upon this journey of embracing the wholeness that's already within us? Because we know that the Father, and if that word gets in your way, change it. God, the divine, our higher power, whatever word works for you, whatever is the God of your understanding, we know it's already within us because we come from the divine. How do we make this journey? The very first steps are learning how to handle our fear. And I want to walk us through some steps that will help us to handle that fear that has emerged from whatever experiences that we have had that is not the truth of us. Does the feeling feel real? Yes. It feels very real. When I am caught in the grip of fear, I feel like I can't move. I feel paralyzed. And yet that's not the truth of us. but it is a habit that many of us have learned how to step into. So I want to walk us through some ways to move from paralyzed to really learning how to handle this fear. All of these steps come from Gay Hendricks in his book, Conscious Living. The first step is to acknowledge that we are feeling fear and then place our non-judgmental attention on that feeling of fear, to simply acknowledge it. Now, many of us have been shamed by saying that we feel afraid. Oh, just buck it up. It's no big deal. We've been shamed in one way or another. So you might be thinking for a moment of the ways in which somebody has told you you should not be feeling your fear. But we want to acknowledge it. In the same way, today is Sunday. Today is Sunday. Today, not in this moment, but today I probably will feel fear. It's one of the emotions that move through us. It's hardwired into our brain. But we don't have to stay rigidly stuck in it if we simply begin that acknowledgement. Oh, I'm noticing, I'm feeling fear. And then choose carefully, choose mindfully who you're sharing that with. So I want to share with people who will say, how can I support you? Instead of buck up, oh, I want to share that I'm feeling fear. Well, how might I support you in moving through that fear? All emotions are just an energy, and fear has a slower sine wave, a slower frequency wave, or a slower vibrational kind of wave. And it doesn't feel good. And yet, when allowed to simply move through us, that fear can go pretty quickly. The actual neurons in our brain, 90 seconds. So from the moment we have the thought that creates the fear, or from the moment we have the sensation that we label as a thought of fear, 90 seconds in our brain. Now you may say, why does it seem like it lasts so much longer? Because we're not allowing it to move. So we want to say, with our non-judgmental attention, with our generous heart, oh, I notice I'm feeling fear. Now you may need to say it over and over and over, because each time we step into the unknown, we may trigger fear because we are in the unknown. And the unknown feels scary to a lot of people. Some people, the unknown is incredibly exciting, and it's very stimulating, and it's incredibly creative. And even people who feel stimulated and creative from the unknown sometimes feel fear. The difference is acknowledgement and moving on. Let me show you step 2. Breathe in the direction of the sensation of fear. So often fear happens in our belly. There's been a lot of research on what's called emotional intelligence, and a lot of research on body intelligence that look at fear. And they find that it's oftentimes in our belly, in our gut. And so when we can breathe toward the sensation, focusing our breath, breathing in and out. One of the phrases I use often is, I breathe in love, I breathe out fear. So I'm taking love, which in unity we call the master healer, the universal healer. Love, it infuses and surrounds. So I breathe in love to that place in my belly where I'm feeling fear, and I breathe out the fear. And I keep doing it till there's that moment where the shift happens. And I'm noticing I'm feeling love. And sometimes it takes a long time. And sometimes it takes a lot of practice if there's a big buildup of fear. And believe me, I understand that big buildup of fear. I spent 6 months of my life, way back when I was in my early 40s, saying, I'm noticing I'm feeling fear. I'm noticing I'm feeling fear. And then there was a day that I didn't notice that I was feeling fear. It was amazing to me that I could actually get there, because I had spent so much of my life feeling fear and allowing that fear to stop me from living fully, allowing that fear to stop me from seeing myself in my wholeness. Breathing. The beautiful thing is the breath and breathing is one of those things that has been given to us already. We were born with that ability to breathe. And we were born with a nervous system that when we slow our breath down, it slows the feeling of fear down too. So being able to acknowledge the fear with our generous, loving attention and to be able to slow our breathing down are the first two steps. The third one looks like this. Move our bodies to accommodate the fear. So often what happens is what I said before. When we get frightened, we're paralyzed. So if we can begin to wiggle and to move, we can dance the fear, we can clean. Sometimes that's when things get really cleaned or organized or sorted for me, is when I'm absolutely petrified because I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I need to move in those times. And the moving gets me moving that energy that feels so prominent in my body in that moment. And you know, the amazing thing is that when it's done, when I have moved that energy, sometimes I look back and I say, wow, was I really feeling that? Was it really that intense? Because I have literally moved the energy out of my body. The fourth one is communicate about fear straightforwardly. To be able to find somebody, to have a feeling partner, to have somebody in your life, friends or family, who you can just say, I want to talk to you for 2 minutes about my fear. I want to tell you exactly what I'm feeling. And what I would like from you is simply listen. Do not give me an intervention. Do not tell me everything's going to be okay. Simply listen. And then at the end of these 2 minutes, would you simply say to me, thank you. Thank you for sharing what you're feeling. Because so often we start to share what we're feeling and somebody has an idea for us to do something to change, which has this undercurrent of there's something wrong with what we're feeling. So if we can say, would you please just listen to me for 2 minutes? That gives those neurons a chance to move through that 90 seconds, and it gives you an extra 30 seconds of expression. And the other person just say, thank you. Thank you for sharing what you're feeling. What happens is then we get to be received, fully received in our experience, not judged, not told we need to do it differently, not told we need to fix it, but simply fully received. Received as part of our wholeness. And the last step is to love our fear unconditionally, to love it unconditionally. Love is a frequency that can contain its opposite. Love is a frequency that can contain its opposite. Love is a frequency where we can say, I love me, I hate me. And the love can contain it. It's big enough. It's big enough. And then love begins its process of infusing and surrounding. And when we have the inward and outward support to simply be with our feelings, be with the fear, breathe into, move, acknowledge, share with somebody where the reflection is simply love, gratitude, thank you. Thank you for sharing with me what you're feeling. I feel honored to receive what you are feeling. That is love. Love unconditionally. Love ourselves as much as we can from where we are. That is the journey of self-love. And then you can find that moment when you've practiced this and give yourself at least a year before you grade yourself on this, before you tell yourself, I'm not doing it right, or I'm not doing this good enough because I'm feeling not good enough. Give yourself at least a year of this practice where you're willing to face into fear, to not make it wrong, to move it, to give action to it, and to love it. And then we can begin to move forward. The co-founder of Unity, Myrtle Fillmore, says, it is up to you to accept your God-given perfection for yourself. It's up to us to accept our God-given perfection for ourselves. Put aside the past mistakes and the untrue suggestions and fix your undivided attention upon the creator of your inner pattern of perfection. The creator of our inner pattern of perfection. Wholeness. God is wholeness. The divine is our wholeness. To focus our attention there. This is the secret of success in all spiritual treatments. It's up to us to open our arms and to receive the knowingness that God is the love of the universe. And then for us to take the journey, for us to take the steps to learn how to love ourselves in all of the ways of ourselves. Because it is learning how to love ourselves in those moments when we feel we're a burden, to love ourselves in those moments when somebody reflects to us our own inner thought that we're not good enough. To love ourselves in every moment is what allows us to embrace our wholeness. And the paradox is that as we are loving ourselves, we are rising up in our frequency. And we are emitting a higher frequency, the frequency of love. And then what is magnetized to us is greater love. We have to do the work. Myrtle Fillmore, Proverbs, as one thinks, so one is, invites us into doing the work. The fifth unity principle is take action. I'm inviting us all to take action today. I have some affirmations for us. I embrace my wholeness. I face my fears, and I celebrate my aliveness. I embrace my wholeness. I face my fears, and I celebrate my aliveness. Let's take these thoughts into a time of meditation. I embrace my fears, and I celebrate my aliveness. I do this from a place of my wholeness, my experience of my wholeness. Because as the experience of not good enough comes forth, I step into my wholeness. I step into the knowing that I am created in the image of, as the likeness of God. I step into my wholeness. Breathe into that for a moment and say it in your own mind. I step into my wholeness. And as I learn to step moment to moment into my wholeness, I begin to live from that place. I begin to feel it rise up in my body. I begin to know the joy of living. I begin to choose moment to moment who I want to be in this world and how I wish to show up. I want to show up in my wholeness. I'm willing to show up in my wholeness. I commit to showing up in my wholeness. And then in those moments I think, oh, I didn't show up in my wholeness, I simply recommit to showing up in my wholeness. I release any thoughts of being unlike my wholeness. And I focus so much on my wholeness. I focus and direct my thoughts so much on my wholeness that anything that is unlike my wholeness simply falls away. For the truth of me, the capital T truth, the highest power of truth of me, that which is unchangeable, is at the center of me. I am whole. And I can choose to express that wholeness, and I make that choice now. So allowing yourself to bring your attention, your whole attention, and to this moment, and to this place, with this knowing I am whole.
Ever since happiness heard your name, it has been running through the streets trying to find you. And several times in the last week, God himself has even come to my door asking for your address. Once I said, God, I thought you knew everything. Why are you asking me where your lovers live? And the beloved replied, indeed, Hafiz, I do know everything, but it is fun playing dumb once in a while, and I love intimate chat and the warmth of your heart's fire. Maybe we should make this poem into a song. I think it has potential. How does this refrain sound? For I know it is a truth. Ever since happiness heard your name, it has been running through the streets trying to find you. And several times in the last week, God himself has even come to my door asking me for your address, wanting the beautiful warmth of your heart's fire. Here at Unity of Wilmington, we want nothing more than you to discover and reunite with your happiness, feeling the warmth of your heart's fire, knowing your oneness with God, expanding your consciousness, and knowing that you have been touched, moved, or inspired to personal transformation. We do the work that we do through your generosity and your love offerings, and we have a number of ways for you to reach out and support Unity of Wilmington. You may go to our website, unitywill.com, and click the donate button right there at the top and at the bottom of the homepage. We also accept your love offerings via Facebook on our Facebook page, or you can mail them to 717 Orchard Avenue, Wilmington, North Carolina, 28403. With all of your generosity, we say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling so good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on a tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new I'm feeling good. Ooh, dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean, don't you know? Butterflies all having fun, you know what I mean. scent of the pine. You know what I mean. Freedom is mine, and I know what I mean. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. I'm feeling so good, so good, so good. Feel da 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 da. Feel good.
I'm feeling good.
I'm feeling great.
I'm affirming that you are also feeling good. Unity publishes a magazine called Daily Word. Today's Daily Word is guidance. The affirmation is on that other slide, the other way. I am divinely guided. And we know that, LaRaisha, you are divinely guided as you move from Wilmington to Detroit. The Motor City is already blessed by you.
Yes,
And we
indeed.
know that to be true.
Yes, indeed. And if you'd like to have prayer support, there are a multitude of ways to do it. You can go to our website and click the button about prayer. It comes to me. You can drop a prayer request in the mail. You can give me a call. You can email me at revnickygolden@gmail.com. I'm always happy to pray. And we are continuing to hold those prayers in consciousness, in prayer for 30 days here, and mail them to Silent Unity, where they are also being held for 30 more days. So 60 days just floating, resting, surrendered in the highest mind action possible, which is prayer.
We don't want to end our time together without you knowing that you are a beloved expression of God.
You are here for a holy purpose.
And you are where you are by divine appointment. You're at the right place at the right time right now.
And we invite you to continue to embrace your wholeness. Make this your life's purpose, your journey, to continue to embrace your wholeness, to face your fear, to live full out, to be all that God called you to be in this day and age, which is a mighty expression of the divine.